Okay, no worries.
Okay, no more humming, right?
Nope, I don't hear any more humming. Okay.
Perfect.
Oh yeah, and we're live now on YouTube. I'm gonna close that up though, because I don't want to hear the weird delay. Hello, anyone who may be there in the chat. Actually, let me see if anyone is. Wow, yeah. Hello, Taylor. So we got some viewers here. Hope everybody's doing well tonight. All right. I gotta close the YouTube because it gets very confusing for me here. But yeah. All right. So you had that list there. Yeah, so we'll do just focusing on headlines, injuries, and outjuries because there's quite a few.
Okay.
Anything on that list that you have particular thoughts on?
No, that's kind of everything I thought you'd bring up. So
Okay.
we're kind of good to go there.
All right. Oh, I need my trusty sheet of paper to record my edit times on. Hopefully not too noisy. All right, and let's see. We are going to get started here at, let's say, 2 minutes is going to be our start time. And we will get right into it, aiming for under 30 minutes. Hopefully we can keep it a short shift here now that we're starting to hit our stride.
Just before you start, Lewis, I'm getting a weird feedback from you. I don't know if you're getting it on your end. Maybe if it's just me, we can just keep going.
No, I want to make sure I've got everything hooked up properly and I don't have anything electronic near my cable. Are you still getting weird feedback?
Okay, you sound good now.
Sounds good. Okay, thank you for checking
I said that. No, now you're like a robot.
Oh, I know what it is. I am not hardwired, and the wireless is not great in this little corner. Is that a little better?
Much better. There we go.
Yeah. Okay, that's definitely it. So
sorry,
it's always
that took
like,
us a minute, but
no, it's cool. Sometimes my VPN is on. Sometimes it's that I'm not hardwired. It can be any number of
it's
things.
doing it again. I do not know what's going on there.
Okay, no, that's okay. That's okay.
Are they seeing it on the YouTube side? Like, if it's just me, I don't want to hold this up.
Because
I can't hear you.
Am I sounding robotic when I speak to you? Help me out in the chat. Because I can't,
Please, somebody.
can't see who's all there. All right, LaFerriere's doing it again. I like to see that. Especially because it's against his goalie. I need someone to score on. I just don't want to see I don't want to see a shutout for Helly. Let's get a goal against Hellebuck. That's your guy, right? I just realized that. Okay. Now we're going to get started at 4 minutes. We're doing great. Oh, and Elon says I sound okay. So hopefully.
Okay, perfect. Then if it's just me, we're good to go. It's minor.
All right. What's up, champs? Welcome to another episode of the Short Shifts Fantasy Hockey Podcast, brought to you by Keeping Karlsson. I'm your host, Louis Ezekiel. Joining me tonight, my pal and yours for her second time around the rink here since we first hung out that first week of the season. We've got Elizabeth here tonight. How are you doing on this fine Tuesday evening?
I'm doing pretty good. It's good to be back. I mean, so soon too. It's good. I'm enjoying it.
That's outstanding. Listen, when you find a quality co-host, you get them back in the studio quick so that you can get right back into the groove of things. Right? We can work on our chemistry. I think we had a really good first outing, and I'm really looking forward to this one as well.
We just had so much fun. We had to do it again.
Absolutely. I want to ask, who's your hero of the fantasy hockey night so far? Who's doing good things for your team?
Okay, I have to go with Tage Thompson. I have him in 2 leagues, and at last count, he was at 11 shots, and there were still 10 minutes to go. So I'm hoping that went up a little bit more.
Outstanding. Yeah, I'm picking a Sabre too. JJ Paterka breaking out a little bit with 2 goals and an assist and 6 shots here against Ottawa. Sometimes playing the Senators can cure what ails you. So love to see that. And West Coast ALAF, Alex Laferriere doing some nice work as well with a couple assists, one on the power play. So another guy I wanted to highlight. Apparently Kaprizov got his face cut. Don't love that he has done nothing for me, but maybe we can give him a little short shifts boost here as we get through our action. So let's get right into it. We have a ton of headlines and a bunch of injuries and outjuries to cover with you here. I don't think we're going to get to hot colds today, but maybe we'll bring a couple folks up as we go. In any case, we kind of have some cold teams actually that I want to start with. So 2 teams that are really kind of struggling that I wanted to take a closer look at and sort of think about, how do we feel about players on this team? Are they holds? Are we worried about them? Should we drop? Should we try to trade? What's the plan with some of these guys? And we're going to start in Nashville. So certainly in the off season, and I was very much guilty of this. There was a lot of hype for this new Nashville, sort of rebuilt a little bit or reloaded. But it just hasn't translated into that on-ice product yet. Nashville is ahead only of the Sharks in points. They're tied with a number of other teams down there, but it has not been good so far. They're averaging just 2.42 goals per game. They've been shut out twice, and right now they are giving up exactly 1 extra goal per game, so 3.42 goals against per game. And it really isn't for a lack of trying. The Preds are firing an average of 32.5 shots per game. They're out shooting opponents by about 5 shots each game. Some of that is that Saros has been just okay, not great. Certainly for goalies overall, we might need to readjust a little bit our calibration for thinking what is a good, save percentage for a goalie to have, since the scorers have sort of had the advantage for most of the young season so far. I think it's the forwards shooting percentage that is the biggest issue. Overall, the Preds are shooting just 7.4%, especially the new additions. Stamkos has just 2 goals on 33 shots. Marchessault has 2 goals on 38 shots. So neither of them are really carrying the weight for their teams. I guess the silver lining here to take out of it is, okay, they're out shooting their opponents. Their shooting percentage is probably unsustainably low, at least a little bit, certainly for these 2 new addition players. What is your degree of concern about Nashville and players throughout the top 6?
I'm not too worried. I mean, I like you say, I think they're going to turn it around. I don't think it's sustainably low, where some of those other teams who aren't doing so hot right now, I can see them still being not so hot in a few weeks. But with Nashville, I think they'll turn it around. You're right. Saros has not quite been himself. So hopefully that will kind of spark the team when he starts getting some of his steals of wins, we'll say. And then we've also got that forward core. Like you said, it's built. It's good. We've got O'Reilly. We've got Forsberg. Stamkos will get there. I mean, he's steady. He'll get there. We know he will. And then same thing with March. So I can't foresee him dropping off this year. I think they're going to be fine. So I think the top 6 will turn it around here any day. It's just when. And unfortunately, that's hard for fantasy managers to hear, because holding out hope is hard sometimes.
Definitely, and especially, Philip Forsberg, who's been, pretty good, better certainly than those 2 guys I mentioned. Roman Yossi's had his struggles, through the season. These were guys that were picked pretty high, and people were quite excited to have them. So yeah, I'm definitely hoping for a bit of a turnaround here. I guess I'm giving it away a little bit, but I feel a little more hopeful for the Preds than I do for this next team that we're going to talk about. Sorry to our good friend Jeremy, but we got to talk about his hometown, Seattle Kraken. They also suffering some scoring woes, and I want to give credit where it's due. I got some help with research from Shams putting this together. He had some good stats for me. But since Vince Dunn was injured, okay, Seattle has scored 2 or fewer goals in 6 of the last 8 games. And that's really not great when the offense is so spread out among, kind of a top 9 of middling fantasy assets. They did score 8 goals in one of those games. When you are up against Sam Montembeault, sometimes you just, you can't help but stumble face forward into, a half dozen or more. But that accounts for nearly half of the goals they have scored since Vince Dunn was hurt. 8 of their 17 goals since Dunn's injury all came in that one game against the hapless Habs against Sam Montembeault. With Dunn, and again, this is a very small sample size, so I don't want to extrapolate this too far, but with Dunn, they scored 20 goals across 4 games. And since Dunn has been gone, Montour obviously has been shouldering some of the burden. He had his excellent hat trick game. He is out shooting every person on the roster by 10. And that's probably not an ideal setup. When you have that, I guess he's their, one remaining kind of offensive defenseman, but I think it really just goes to show how spread around thin the offense is among that top 9. Here's where I get a little concerned. So Seattle is not shooting a ton, just 26.8 shots per game, for and 29.8 against. So they're at a deficit of 3 shots a game. They've been staying afloat and staying ahead of Nashville in the points race because they are scoring an extra half goal a game and allowing half a goal fewer per game. But sort of like the opposite of what I was saying about Nashville, if the Kraken are already kind of doing pretty decently in terms of their scoring, I worry a bit that, what if their shooting percentage slows down? What if they can't continue, to score on around 10% of their shots? That starts to have me worried.
That's fair, I think. And I mean, first of all, as fantasy owners, you're always worried with the Kraken because, like you mentioned, the lines are a little interesting. But I do think there's something to be said about having your top shot producer be your defenseman. It's a little strange. Definitely something that, good for the fantasy managers who have Montour, but definitely strange, especially for somebody like me who's got McCann and is hoping that he will turn it around. The people who have Beniers, you kind of want you want those guys to be a little bit more involved. And I don't want to say turn it around. That was the wrong phrase, but they're doing fine. But I had Jordan Eberle as well, and I let him go after the weekend. His cardio session caused me to lose. So I'm kind of with you on this. I don't know what's going on with Seattle. If Montour's your guy right now, that's scary.
Yeah, that's you don't want him to be your top offensive option. And Jared McCann has been good at times throughout the course of the season. Yes. But it's just maybe not reliable enough. And I'm with you. And I think they talked about this on the Mega Show too, that we probably are heading into drop territory with Eberle, despite getting all that good deployment through one period. He has accomplished nothing. So you don't love to see that. That's not a great setup.
I do love to see it after I dropped him, because usually I drop people and they go on a hot streak.
Sure. Okay, fair enough. So at least you're getting some confirmation that you have made a good choice, even if, for the Kraken, it's not ideal. Yeah.
Sorry, Kraken fans.
Yeah, I think he's not long for my roster here. Maybe if it was last year when there was such a premium on right wings, but for whatever reason, that left wing slot has become so much more valuable. It's been nice to see some players get some additional roster eligibility to help with that a little bit across Yahoo. All right, so yeah, a couple rough teams, but we seem to be more or less in agreement here. We like Nashville to start to improve a little bit, maybe hold there. Pretty much permission to drop everybody but Montour, McCann, and maybe Dacourt from the Kraken, eh?
Oh, absolutely. And yeah, Dacourt's looking great. I wouldn't be dropping him. He's getting the starts right now. That's what you want to see. So that's a key for sure.
All right. All right, let's move over to just something that I thought was kind of interesting. Maybe not the biggest headline in the world, but it's looking like if you are shopping around for quality goalie spot starts, I wonder if Jake Allen is starting to push himself towards the top of the heap for our backup goalies who make for some pretty appealing options. His overall save percentage does not jump out at you. He's right in the Saros zone, around 904. But that's not terrible in a season where goalies are struggling. He's above that 900 Mendoza line, kind of. He's got 3 quality starts of his 5 that he's had so far. He's earned shutouts over Utah, where he made 20 saves. And of course, a shutout of Edmonton on Monday, where he made 31 saves. That is a Connor McDavid-less Edmonton team, but 31 saves is 31 saves, and there's still plenty of talent on that roster. We do have to address the one really bad start that he had. He did have an 8-goal against debacle against Tampa. He's saved 4.25 goals below what an average goalie would have saved. So that's really ugly, but it does kind of look like an outlier. Maybe we can just be glad that he did it then instead of hopefully when you add him. That Tampa Bay game did also feature 3 special teams goals, 2 on the power play and 1 shorthanded. So maybe we can chalk that up to being an outlier and say, in general, Allen is looking more likely to give you a quality start than not if you spot him. And of course, we know that New Jersey can provide run support. They've got a pretty solid defensive core, especially with Luke Hughes coming back. They're going to provide some run support. I would be happy to add Allen, I think, as a goalie stream here. Moving forward, that's going to be a guy that I am keeping an eye out for potential spot starts, although that has not been my go-to strategy this season. I think I've streamed 2 goalies so far this year.
Yeah, I mean, if you're looking for a goalie to stream, it's a great option. I almost streamed him last night for the Monday night game, but I decided that I was cheering for the Oilers and I was going to be at the game and that I wanted to see a win. And if I picked him up, we weren't going to win. But I guess I should have just picked him up and went with it because every Oilers game I've been to this year has been a loss. And I'm starting to think I'm bad luck. So we'll see where that takes me. But yeah, Allen, definitely a person that I'm interested in. Like you said, New Jersey is looking really good this year. I don't know where they came from, to be honest, but I have multiple New Jersey players on my fantasy teams, and I'm really enjoying it.
It kind of feels for New Jersey like they needed last year to kind of have some rough, bumps and bruises, and now they've kind of gotten themselves sorted out, with their new kind of version of their lineup. Maybe that is a hopeful sign for Nashville that these new guys that they added might take a little longer than we expected to sort of settle in. So, just theorizing here, I suppose. And we did talk a little bit. Before we hit record on the show, but I sympathize very much with your concerns. I have never successfully attended a Red Wings playoff game and come away with a victory. I have been to many losses, but never a victory there. So unfortunate. I also one time went to a regular season game to see my all-time favorite player, Dominik Hasek. And I think we were playing the Blues, and he injured his groin in the first period and didn't get to play after that. So really some tough luck.
Good luck.
No, it's been ugly. So I maybe I'll stay away from Little Caesars Arena.
We're bad luck buddies. It's bad luck buddies. We'll take it for the team.
That's right. We will stay away so that your favorite teams can win. Or alternatively, if you would like to send us to games of our favorite teams when they play your teams, we would love to attend so that we can get the arena experience and maybe your team could come out with a victory. All right. One last item kind of in our headlines. I don't know how well this fits in headlines, but I wanted to just jump in here and say I heard on the Mega Show this slanderous talk about how people should be looking to trade Ovechkin, that he is overachieving, to which I say, yeah, he is overachieving. Okay. I understand that. I get that his underlying numbers are inflated. I understand all of this. Here's the thing though. Number one, he is the guy on his team, capital T, capital G. That's one of my rules of thumb. When I'm drafting players, if I have a choice between a guy on the team and the guy on the team, give me the guy. I define that as basically being someone who has basically no chance of moving down the lineup from their spot, right? So, you could look at McKinnon as being the guy and Rantanen as being a guy potentially. Now, Rantanen is a very good guy, but he is a guy. Yeah. So, Ovi is the guy. Ovi seems motivated. It seems like he only wants to score, 21 goals next season. Like, I don't think he's going to do it all this year, but, I think in his head, he's sort of like, okay, if I can really, if I can goose my numbers this year, I can take it a little easier. next season, with the offseason conditioning. I do think that, we've talked about this before. Washington improved the team. They're giving him a better supporting cast. They're going to be looking for him, right? If there's an empty net, they're going to be looking to Ovi to try to pot it, right? So I just feel like he's going to be given all the opportunity in the world. He's earned it, I think, for his loyal service over the decades. While I understand with my brain the idea that his numbers are inflated, with my heart, I feel like he has a good chance to maybe not continue as a 105-point player, but continue to find a lot of success, be worth having. Like, how would you feel if you trade him away and you got someone who is, doing fine, but he's like out there every day chasing Gretzky? Just from an emotional standpoint, I feel like he's going to get his chances. The team's into him. He, hold on to this guy. I'm going to hold on to him. I'm not looking to deal.
So sometimes I disagree with you. This is probably one of those times where I'd say I would be interested to see what people are offering me if I'm the Ovechkin owner, but I'm not shopping him. I am with you. He is chasing that record. He is worth keeping. He's motivated. This guy has a goal and he's going for it, and I love it. He's doing great right now. I mean, if you looked at him last week, I would have wanted him on my fantasy team. So I don't know why anybody else went. And truly, even in watching him in the real world of hockey, not just the fantasy land, I mean, it's exciting to watch a guy go for a record and try to break it. And you're right, they're going to give him all of those opportunities. They all want to see him do that too. So yeah, keep Ovechkin if you can. But if somebody offers you something, yeah, see what you can get.
All right, fair enough. Maybe take that first offer and then at least, send it back and say, yeah, this is all right, but toss me a sweetener as well. And then maybe we can talk, at least,
exactly.
Make them work for it a little bit, I think. All right, great. I guess two more little bits of news here, just sort of more recent stuff that's happened while we've been talking. We're getting word that perhaps Kaprizov, he got a face injury. I think I was talking about that earlier. I don't remember if that was before or after recording, but the chat is saying maybe a broken nose. That would certainly be a bummer because Joel Eriksson-Ek had the same thing happen. He's been very dull out here today. So the Kaprizov owner's getting a little bit of that regression to the mean here the last couple games after Kaprizov just absolutely could not be stopped. But there's 3 more games this week. Hopefully, a couple days of rest will get him back into shape, because the next 3 opponents are San Jose, Anaheim, and Chicago. They're all away games, but those are not teams that I think this high-octane Minnesota offense is going to have a ton of trouble with. So fingers crossed that this is not something that keeps him out a game or two the way it did for Joel Eriksson-Ek. But some of our Kaprizov managers may have to be looking for some alternatives. One other thing of note, Oliver Ekman-Larsson versus Morgan Riley has been a bit of a debate lately. In my Allied chat, we were thinking about how much should we potentially bid on an OEL that hit the waiver wire. After tonight's game, I think OEL's value has taken a hit. We got 3 points from Morgan Riley, all of them on the power play. Thank you, Taylor, in the chat for pointing this one out. So maybe that is sort of settling that debate, at least for the time being, until, the next time we hit a cold streak with that power play. So one other thing to keep in mind.
Absolutely.
All right, sorry,
I'm just going to jump right in. I'm going to steal my moment. While you're complaining about Kaprizov being out for a little bit there, you did mention that Hartman was up a line. So the people like me who streamed him in are probably pretty excited about that. That's good news for him. And then I just want to say, we're here just giving our opinions. So take that with a grain of salt. I'm not saying everyone should rush out and grab Hartman.
Yeah, definitely. But it could be potentially a good option for you there. Maybe by the end of the show, we'll see if Kaprizov has returned to the ice. If anyone notices, please toss it up in the chat so that we can see. All right, we are going to take a quick break here. On the other side, we just have a ton of injury and outjury news. Really looking forward to getting into it. You're listening to Short Shifts. Nice. That was, I only have one edit point through that whole section. We're on a roll.
I'm glad, because I got so much static every now and then that I'm just nodding along. I'm like, I know where you're going with this, so I'll just pick it up.
Oh man, I'm so sorry. I hope it's.
I don't know if it's on my end, so don't feel bad.
Well, what I'm worried is that it's going to show up in the recording
Well,
but it's
everyone said
locally
you sound
recorded.
fine.
So, yeah, fingers crossed here. All right. Interesting. It's getting a little close here in my matchup. Don't like that. Oh yeah, we're tied. It's it's a dead heat.
Oh,
That's okay.
better than me.
All right. Anything before we get back into it and bring this thing home?
I think we're good. We're just doing outros.
Yeah, let's
Yeah, we're good.
try and aim for 10 minutes here. So we'll be done at 35, I think would be good. All right. We'll start at 25:45. Welcome back to Short Shifts. Oh, all right. I'll redo that because Taylor has. All right. No static in the feed. That's what I want to hear. Thank you. Welcome back to Short Shifts. All right, Elizabeth, let's run through some of our injuries. I tried to I didn't do a great job actually of doing this, but I tried to sort them by order of like importance. We've got actually a lot of really key, it's looking like lots of top line centers really that we need to talk about here. Let's start with Connor McDavid. He took an optional skate on Monday, talked to the media after. Dr. McDavid declared himself a little bit ahead of his 2 to 3 week schedule. He said that he's more day to day than he is week to week. He didn't rule out the Vancouver game on Sunday. That would be Saturday, I should say. I'm sorry. But that would be quite the turnaround going from 2 to 3 weeks to basically 1 week. But it's possible. These guys are built different, certainly.
Definitely. He's rehabbed himself before. We know he can do this, but as an Oilers fan, please don't come back till you're ready. I want to note that Coach Knobloch did say it might actually be Tuesday a return. So clearly there's some competing timelines, but they're very close. So definitely could be back for Saturday, but we know it's a busy Saturday and Vancouver's a tough opponent. I would rather see him come back against the Islanders. Sorry, Islanders fans.
I'm right there with you for my own selfish reasons. I'm up against the McDavid owner this week. I think several members of the Short Shifts family are, including Ryan Downey and Shams. I think all of us would not mind, I suppose, if he wanted to take his time with his recovery and maybe come back next week. That would be all right by me. Next up for important centers, Braden Point was injured in their most recent game before Tuesday. This led to some line changes. Anthony Cirelli, who moved up into that position during the game, is maintaining it. He is line 1 now with Hagel and Kucherov. Gensel down to line 2 with Mitchell Chaffee and Nick Paul. And then Chaffee was elevated to the top power play. I don't have a whole lot to say about this. Maybe, there's only 2 Tampa Bay games this week, so I don't think we need to, get too nervous about it. It seemed like the injury to Point was not anything too major. Does seem like a little bit of a downgrade to Gensel. Anything that you want to point out with this setup?
I think you've covered the highlights, but I will note that Tampa also has only 2 games next week. It's a really weird schedule. So just something to watch for our fantasy managers. If you've got him in an IR slot and maybe he's not back later this week, you might want to leave him there.
Yeah, makes sense. If you can sort of move around him, if you can plan your moves so that he is, you've got your move set up before, you might have to make one while he is on the IR, but healthy. That might be a good idea. But yeah, I think that's the big takeaway. Cirelli, at least in the cupful, I think should already have been owned. But now getting up on some Kucherov exposure, obviously good for him. Maybe some interest in Chaffee with that power play 1 deployment. But again, the lack of games, I think, is concerning. And it could be as soon as Thursday that he is, or Saturday, whenever they play next. I know it's a busy night. He could be demoted by that point. So I wouldn't be in any big rush to rush out and grab him. All right, third big center, Austin Matthews was held out from Tuesday's game with an injury. So we saw the following line combinations: Max Domi with Marner and Nyes, John Tavares with Nylander and Pacioretty. The Leafs had no problem dispatching their playoff bugaboo in the Boston Bruins. But obviously they would, I'm sure, rather have Marner or Matthews in the picture here. It does seem like nice deployment for Domi while it lasts. And it does give Pacioretty potentially a little more life here as a streaming option. We talked about him last week as interesting if he keeps getting, 13, 14 minutes a game, not the 8 and 9 that he was getting previously.
Yeah, and unfortunately, this is looking pretty good for. All right, we're looking pretty good for Matthews with this too. I mean, being out, the team's looking great. The power play is looking really good. So, I mean, I'm interested, but we don't really know what's wrong with Matthews. We don't know how long he's going to be out for. So, interested, but cautious would be my advice here. I'm hoping that Matthews is back right away, and I know a whole bunch of my team Mailish managers probably are as well, because that was our pretty much de facto pickup. So I can't say much here other than, unfortunately, the Leafs are looking good without him.
Yeah, for what it's worth, I do kind of like Domi as an option more than I do Pacioretty. We've seen him, successfully kind of operating as a distributor. So I think that's who I would go for. I think he has a better shot of sticking in the top 6 with Matthews' return, even though he sort of was elevated to that position. But watch game day lines, see what they have to show. Okay. All right. Some Colorado news, a few different things. Outcheries now. Arturi Lehkonen returns here on Tuesday night to his old spot on the top line and top power play. I think the Colorado game is 2-2 right now. Yeah, Jared McCann. So the one guy we said keep got a power play goal, so that's nice. And Chandler Stevenson with an 8th assist, but he's kind of a Rob Thomas assists and not a whole lot else kind of guy, except for when he caught fire for a little bit, I think, towards the end of last season. Sorry, getting distracted by the Kraken. But back to Colorado, the other big news is that Val Nichushkin is looking to make a return on the 15th. So that's still 10 days away. But those who grabbed him hoping that they could, get a piece of the top power play may be happy to hear that news. I'm not 100% ready to say Nichushkin slides right back into power play 1. I would potentially be concerned about Casey Middlestat holding on to that spot. He's had quite a bit of success. And it may not be as simple as Nichushkin getting back into the lineup. It may also require a bit of a step back, maybe from Middlestat's success to open up an opportunity for him.
Exactly. They've got some time to sort this out, though. Nichushkin started practicing yesterday with the team again, which is exciting for Colorado fans, I'm guessing. I know there's some cute little stories about how his teammates were surprised that he was there, and they all got to hang out and make jokes, which was nice. But yeah, we're talking a few weeks out. There is time for things to change. There's time for someone to go on a cold streak and get bumped. I hope not, but there is time for that still. But while they're practicing, they're going to be testing out those power play lines and seeing what actually is working and what fits best. So something to keep an eye on if you're hoping for him to come back and, like you say, just slot right back in, is just how well the team's doing in the next 2 weeks.
Definitely. All right, another big ouchery for San Jose, who certainly could use a shot in the arm. Macklin Celebrini, who's been out since game 1, makes his return here on Tuesday night. He is going to be centering a line with Granlund and Toffoli. So nice for those Granlund managers. I know he's been a name that's been very popular among the Cup Illuminati here. Especially I know Elon has been a big fan. So nice for Granlund, not so nice for Eklund, who sees himself drop off of the top line and top power play right now. He is still lining up with Wenberg and Zetterlund on the second line, which is a decent line. But he was, one of the things that was appealing about Eklund was that he was getting, like 21 minutes a night. And I don't see that holding if he's not on that Celebrini line. I think they're going to want to get him out there, get some miles under his legs here, since he never really got the start to the season that he was hoping for. How worried are you? I think Eklund maybe even came up as a potential like cold streak, maybe drop guy. Do you see some hope for him? Do you want to have some patience, or are you ready to maybe move on from him?
We're going to have to cut. I did not hear who you said at the end there. Sorry.
No problem. What's the timestamp here? Sorry, I'm on the
If you
wrong
tell me
window.
who it is, I can just pick right up, though.
Yeah.
I was doing so good.
It's no big deal. Okay, I said, who was I talking about? Oh, Eklund. Eklund is the guy I'm worried about because he's now line 2, power play 2, may not be getting 21 minutes a night like he was getting previously.
So I just wasn't sure if you said anybody else. So I'm good with Eklund.
How much of a drop guy do we think he is at this point?
All right. Well, when it comes to Eklund, obviously there is a little bit of concern. Like you said, he's being bumped down for the time being. For the Granlund owners, like you said, very happy. I guess I'm part of the Illuminati now because I also drafted him, and I'm pretty happy with the outcome. But when it comes to Eklund with the bump, you've got to watch out for that. It's going to happen whenever one of these top 6 guys is out and comes back. Somebody's got to go up and down the line. Unfortunately, this time it's Eklund. I am not losing any interest in him, though. He's already having a pretty good year. He's had 2 goals, 7 assists in 12 games. That's nothing to sneeze at. And last year he did 45 points in 80 games, which is pretty good. But he's already slightly up this year if you do the math on that. So hopefully it continues from the second line, but we'll have to wait and see.
Yep, definitely a wait and see approach here. I am a bit concerned, but I'm going to not make any hasty moves, luckily for me, or maybe unluckily, due to my injury concerns. I have plenty of players that I am looking to get rid of before I drop Eklund. So
yes,
go out there and do something.
No hasty actions on this one. This one, I'm going to say no worries. Give it a little bit of time.
Yeah, definitely. Let's see how things shake out. You know, with Celebrini back, they may try a few combinations before they settle on something. And if they can't find success, they may make pretty continuous changes. Mini Ouchery news. It sounds like Kaprizov is back. He has the chance to break up his cardio session where he has not done anything yet tonight. So fingers crossed here, even though it'll help my opponent's goalie potentially win that game. Last one I wanted to talk about here. We have this news about an injury to Tyler Seguin. I wouldn't have said this is necessarily the most important news, but Sagan's been pretty hot lately. I think 6 points over the last 4 games. You know, that's what happens when you're on the other fantasy manager's team and you're up against me for the week. So that's just, you know, the kind of luck that those players kind of get. But, you know, what they're talking about is that he has this lower body injury, and they think it's going to be something that he is going to have to manage all season long. That has me a little worried. They said especially during back-to-backs, you know, the extra strain, the extra stress is giving him trouble. So if you are a Seguin manager, you may, and like everyone, I thought I was being so clever when I wrote this in my notes. I called it the Hinsening, but Dave Betton made the joke on Twitter. I saw people making the exact same joke I'm not very original here, I guess is my point is everybody who plays fantasy hockey can look at Seguin having a weird injury that may keep him out at random times and say, oh yeah, this is like the Rupe Hintz thing. If you recall a few seasons ago, he was absolutely infuriating because he was like a game day decision almost every game. So the issue here is if you have Seguin, you may need to pay really close attention to those game start times. And because Dallas is, you know, a later time zone, sometimes that means you might have to make a decision before you're fully informed about his news. But I would say on busy days, you may want to just have Seguin sitting on your bench on the off chance that he is not going to have the opportunity to get in there and play.
Absolutely. I mean, cautious optimism here. Hopefully this is something that he can work through and gets right back to where he was before. But this is his second lower body injury this season. I don't know if it's the same one. And so that's a little bit concerning when you start to see these repeat injuries. Like you said, we've seen it with other players. There's many jokes out there. I won't try to add to the dad jokes tonight. But we'll see where it goes. I would be like you, a little bit more cautious. I would be if I have to sit somebody because we don't really know if he's going to play or not. I'd be sitting him just out of an abundance of caution.
Yeah, I think that's the way you have to approach it. And then, if you have the ability, what I always did when I had hints is I just set an alarm for 10 minutes before the game so I could check in on the warm-ups and see how it was. But even sometimes they'd be like, yeah, he's out there for warm-ups. We don't know if he's going to play or not. There's an extra guy. Like, who knows what's going to happen ultimately. So not great, but something to keep an eye on. And I'm not saying run out and drop Sagan. But keep in mind that managing him throughout the season may be a little more complicated than you might like. And let's end on a high note. Congratulations to Arturi Lehkonen, first goal of the season, with assisted by McKinnon and Cale Makar, both of whom just earned their 17th assists of the season. Just same old story over there in Colorado with those guys running hot. Elizabeth, thank you so much for joining me to run us through all the news that is fit to talk about here.
Thanks for having me back.
Yeah, absolutely. It was a pleasure. And I imagine we're going to see a lot more of you in the future. So folks out there, stay tuned. Certainly give us your feedback. If there's anything you'd like us to talk about, if you have questions or concerns, anything that you want to give us feedback about, please reach out. Especially for our patrons, you've got the easiest time getting in touch with us since we've had a little bit less of a social media presence. It's not as fun to be out there on Twitter these days, but definitely, one of the big perks of joining Keeping Karlsson as a patron is our super active Discord. It's always going. There's always somebody to talk hockey with. It's so much fun. So just give that some consideration, keepingkarlsson.com/patron. You can even get on the wait list to take over a team if a manager decides they've had enough and gives it up, and that can give you a little bit of a leg up for next season in the Keeping Karlsson Ultimate Patron Fantasy League. Also, please check out GameDayTweets.com to get all the best info from Twitter without having to actually go there. And visit that site and the other great sites we use to research our episodes at Yahoo, Frozen Tools, and Natural Stat Trick. Our intro and outro music was created by Pat Roach. And until we see you next time, play smart and keep your shifts short. All right. Thank you, Taylor. Appreciate you stopping by. Thank you, Elon. If you're still hanging around, love to have a little bit of chatter there. And I definitely getting the Morgan Riley update was awesome. Thanks as always to everybody who took the time to watch us here on YouTube. I'm going to go ahead and end the stream though. So good night. Best of luck. I hope everything is going well for you in your fantasy teams. We'll see you soon.